Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening, wherever you may be joining us from. Welcome back to another episode of Cheeky Chip Chat. Paul, one of my favorite matches of the year every time it happens because we get to come on the show afterwards and you and I get to duke it out. Now, of course, I'm looking forward to it a lot less this time because of the way the result panned out for my team. But congratulations. Before we get into anything else, I think a preliminary congratulations is in order. Paul, how was your week? The of course the result notwithstanding.
My week was great. My week was, even with the results standing, my week was better than yours. Um, I'm just saying. I wish all my results could come in this form of fashion, but sometimes they don't. It's been a tumultuous week, I think.
Yeah.
I'm glad we're gonna be able to talk some soccer, get our minds off some of the more stressful aspects of our
Of
lives.
life, yeah, in general. I agree. Let's get back into the realm of reality that makes sense.
Yeah,
At least if you're not a
exactly.
United fan, in which case you're baffled as to how this can anyway. I- um yeah, let's not waste any time. I think let's dive straight into this. I think we're gonna have fun with this one.
I would like to say, sorry we were not on last week. We always have some scheduling issues. It's always difficult to get Rahul and I both on. So
Yeah.
sorry we missed you. That's it. That's all.
Thank you,
That's all.
thank you for you're this is why Paul, you're the public outreach guy. You're very good at this. I apologize. Yes, we are sorry we did not have an episode last week, but we're back with more cheekiness. Of course, the cheekiest football podcast this side of the Atlantic, and we are back to provide more entertainment for you as we deep fry Manchester United versus Arsenal. Now, Paul, going into the match, Arsenal in a 3-4-3. They've got Mohamed El Neni and Thomas Partey cleaning up the middle of the park in the center of that midfield four. How did you feel about that? About that going into the game? I haven't watched Arsenal much, if at all, this season. So if that's something that's been going on all season, I have not been privy to it. But can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah. So usually we see this is definitely a more defensive setup. I'll start there, and I think this was all per Arteta's plan to kind of make sure that we solidified that midfield and kind of locked it down, especially because, as we saw, I know we're going to talk about Ollie's lineup here in a second, with that diamond shape, it's going to cause a really strong midfield. So you're going to want two kind of holding midfielders there, or maybe defensively minded midfielders
Mm-hmm.
to kind of solidify that midfield for yourself. And I think that is why El Neni and Thomas Partey are playing, right? So Thomas Partey, our brand new signing, he's going to probably be a consistent player in the lineup. But the
Mm-hmm.
reason
I would
maybe
be
we didn't
surprised
go,
if he isn't because of how he's a world class midfielder. The fact that he stayed let it go with a release clause like that as long as he did is a little baffling. But great pickup for Arsenal in the summer transfer window.
phenomenal pickup and did great in this game. I know we'll get into it.
Mm-hmm.
Like we always do this. We're just like we're
We,
gonna get
we,
into it. We're
we
gonna get
were
into
so
it.
eager to get into it, and you really get after it. Then you realize, like, hold on, we got to hold a little back, save some for the rest of the show.
But I was a little shocked that Granit Xhaka wasn't starting. Granit Xhaka has been a staple of our midfield the past few games.
Yeah.
I believe, and Arteta mentioned this before the game, that it had more to do with the fact that Granit Xhaka had played a lot of minutes over the past few weeks,
Okay.
especially he played in the Europa League game before this happened. So, and that was on Thursday. Quick turnaround, even though it was a Sunday game, quick turnaround. So,
Mm-hmm.
rested Xhaka brings in El Neni, which is kind of an odd choice because you don't usually see El Neni at the top of your team sheet when you think about Arsenal, but brought him back from loan this season. Arteta seems to really like him. He came out with a quote this past week that said something along the lines of that El Neni's one of those players that is just a team player through and through. He'll always think about that. He'll always give effort for the team, even though he's not going to score necessarily all the time
Mm-hmm.
or ever really with El Neni.
Though he did come
He's
close a couple times in this game.
Yes, he did. He was my player of the match, I think, for Arsenal. In fact, really, honestly, he played so well, and Partey played well too. They just held down that midfield, and I think that's what Arteta wanted.
Yeah.
And it's a little, the formation is something we've seen before. This duo in midfield, I think, allows for a little bit more of attacking purposes farther up the field, which I
Mm-hmm.
really like. Which I
Mm-hmm.
really like, man.
Yeah,
And yeah, I
I
was
agree.
excited to see. I always think Pepe should start over Willian. I know Willian's the veteran, and I just think Pepe's just such a flashier player than Willian. But this might be the solidified top three for us for a while here, I'm thinking.
Yeah, Willian did create tons of chances going in there, so I can't argue with starting him over Pepe. I mean, I think he would have more Premier League pedigree than Pepe does, so it wouldn't surprise me if Mikel Arteta goes with tried and true Willian. But Willian, of course, getting up there in age, so we'll see if, how much rotation there is there. But moving into the Manchester United lineup, we got, as you said, the 4-4-2 with the diamond. It worked very well when it was brought in against PSG, with United snatching the 2-1 win at the end. And it worked very, very well against the previously undefeated for the season Leipzig when we put 5 past them. So it seemed like the diamond was the ideal formation going into this game against Arsenal. We had Scotty McSauce and its CDM. We had Fred on the right side, Pogba on the left side of that diamond that he likes to occupy. We have Bruno at the head of the diamond, kind of acting as that number 10 link between the midfield and the attack. And then we had Marcus Rashford and Mason Greenwood playing up top in a striking pair. And then, of course, in defense, Shaw, Maguire, Lindelof, Aaron Wan-Bissaka. It's pretty standard at the back. And so on paper, I was very confident going into this game because I was like, this formation's worked great in the Champions League against some quality opposition. We've got both Bruno and Pogba playing. We won't lack creativity. We've got Fred, who's been, pretty tenacious as of late. And he's been playing pretty well, holding stuff down. So he'll be a force on that right-hand side. Scott McTominay coming in. I mean, between him and Matic, it's kind of a toss-up. I mean, Matic has been playing, had been playing, pretty well prior to that point. So I was a little surprised that Matic hadn't started. In fact, that was the one out of the 11 that I didn't select before the game. But Scotty McTominay can hold his own. So yeah, real no surprises for me for the United lineup.
I think hasn't McTominay scored a couple of bangers in this specific fixture before?
Yeah, I mean last
so.
season he did in the 1-1 draw here at Old Trafford, where Aubameyang scored that offside goal that wasn't offside. Yes, I'm still salty.
It wasn't offside.
It wasn't offside. But yeah, he does tend to score some bangers in the big games, so I can't blame him for bringing him in. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I'm with you on the lineup. You see that it's a very strong lineup. You demolished Leipzig, which again, they were playing very well in the Bundesliga. Don't take anything away from Leipzig on that one. It's a good win, and of course, PSG. That's a great win.
Mm-hmm.
It's the only reason I still have you coming out of the group here.
Dang, man, he's really dipping deep into later in the show. Wow. Okay.
Well, no, I'm just gonna try to get every single dig in before we play you again at the Emirates, because for like 6 months, no, it's not 6 months, it's whatever, 4 months.
You get to dangle this over my head.
Exactly. Even though you have Champions League soccer, we beat you at Old Trafford. Anyway,
this is why we call it cheeky chip chat. Especially this is why I love this episode. This is the cheekiest one because the bands are flying.
Sorry, I was gonna say the only thing that concerned me about United's lineup is the fact that it doesn't provide much width.
Yeah, no, and that's true. But something that United fans have been talking about recently is like, realistically, Marcus Rashford is, even though he does cut in, all of our forwards cut in when they're playing, even when they're playing wide positions, they cut inside, they don't go wide. So really and truly, we don't have many natural, or if any, natural wingers. Maybe Daniel James, maybe. But apart from that, we don't have natural wingers. So what this formation allows us to do is say, why are we trying to shoehorn these guys into positions that they don't play? Let's just allow them to play more centrally. And so what this formation is trying to do is let Pogba and Fred occupy a little bit more wide roles when they get forward, occupying the space outside the box to the right and the left, so that they can put some balls in and crosses in, and allow the players who normally start out wide to play a little bit more central and where they're more comfortable and score more goals. But Yeah, you're right. The de facto, that's how it works in principle, but de facto it just doesn't provide the width that the 4-3-3 or even a 4-2-3-1 would give you. So that's definitely true. And I think Mikel Arteta's setup, like you said, with Thomas Partey in the midfield, tenacious ball winner, and I hadn't rated Mohamed El Neni prior to this game as this kind of player, as also a tenacious ball winner. But just purely the radius that they were able to cover, press, cut the pass. They were able to simultaneously press and cut the passing lanes with clever positioning. And that's what enabled them to win the ball back quickly. So just like United try and catch teams in transition, El Neni and Partey formed just a complete wall. So when United did try and move forward, they lose the ball almost immediately. I mean, we barely had possession in your half in the first half. And that's what enabled when once El Neni and Partey got the ball, Bellerin and Saka with the pace straight up the flanks. Willian and Aubameyang also pacey straight in the flanks and attacking the fullbacks. And there is this kind of confusion that I want to call out here when United are not in possession. The diamond kind of shifts into a flat 4-4-2. It just becomes two banks of four, right? Because we don't need Bruno, we don't need the diamond, because all we're trying to do is prevent you guys from scoring on us, and then once we get back into position, we quickly transition back in there. But the problem is it creates marking confusion with the wide players, because Pogba and Fred shift further out wide, and then, or depending on how the players end up in the flat 4-4-2, there's marking confusion between Wan-Bissaka and the person who's on the right side, and Shaw and whoever's on the left side. And so when you catch United trying to transition into the 4-4-2 diamond, you take advantage of that confusion because you're isolating Luke Shaw, because whoever's next to him or whoever was supposed to be in front of him isn't necessarily helping him out anymore, and they're still trying to figure out who needs to go with that runner. And you don't have a lot of time to do that when you have the likes of Bellerin, Willian, Saka, and Aubameyang breaking on you. So I did want to call that out. It was a very, very, very clever tactic from Mikel Arteta to set up that way and try and exploit the formation that way. And it worked very, very, very well.
I think going into it, Mikel Arteta definitely had the advantage on the formation for me, just because of that issue with what you just mentioned with the confusion, but also them being too far wide for it to be an effective diamond in the middle.
Right. Yeah. And that's true. That's true. Even if they were solid on their marking assignments, just the nature of the diamond means there's space out on the flanks, which they exploited. So that's true. And then the other thing I wanted to call out was something United do in and around the box, like the opposition box. So when they did finally get into Arsenal's half on the few occasions that they did in the first half, what would happen is the ball would get out wide. If, like, let's say this is the box, the ball would get out here and here. And then inevitably, we don't have the quality to put a good cross into the box, because the only player on our team who can really cross is Alex Telles, and he has COVID. So inevitably what happens is the wide player, instead of whipping the cross into the box, cuts back. And then they try and play a clever 1-2 with one of the forwards or attacking midfielders who's parked on the edge of the box. They try and play a clever 1-2 and create some intricate passing sequences to confuse the defense and maybe break into the box that way. But all Holding and Tierney had to do was park themselves literally on the edge of the box and cut out the 1-2s. And so that's what would happen is, at least in previous games, they'd get the 1-2 off and then get tackled. But in this case, the 1-2 didn't even come off because Tierney and Holding would just intercept the pass because they knew what was happening, because this is the only way United know how to break down a defense, is play 1-2s in and around the box and try and find an opening and take speculative long shots from outside the box. And if you luckily get into the box, maybe somebody will tackle you and maybe you'll get a penalty. That's really the only way we know how to get into the box and create chances. And so Arsenal snubbed that out, and that was why United were very, very ineffective and continued to lose the ball even when they did get into Arsenal's half.
Now, do you think that's coming from the manager, that lack of creativity?
I mean, you can blame a portion of it on the manager, I would argue. I mean, because I think that's a tactical thing to kind of create these different patterns of play. We talk about Liverpool all the time, and how, oh, that, like, we talked about it when we were talking about the Merseyside derby, how, the Mane would get into this position and then he'd cut back to this position. There's different patterns of play that the manager can identify and say, okay, tactically, this is where this team is weak, or this is where our strength is. Let's do it that way. But being unable to break down a team that is set up defensively, because Arsenal were very quick to get back into shape defensively. It's one thing I have to give them credit for. Being unable to get back into shape defensively, or being unable to break down a team that's got back into shape defensively, is a problem. It is a real problem. It's something that United have struggled with in the past and are continuing to struggle with this season, because it's their patterns of play are being figured out and they need to develop new ones. And, Arsenal did not have a very difficult time figuring them out in the first half, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, United switched it up in the second half, obviously, but it was in the first half. It was oddly predictable. We saw similar things in the second half. I think one of the plays that really highlights exactly what you're talking about with the box tiki taka kind of business is Matic's kind of attempt at the very end where Gabriel gets a brilliant tackle off on him. And he calls for the penalty, whatever, right? But it was that kind of tiki-taka right at the box to get Matic in, right? And I know that was in the second half, but that's kind of the one that sticks out to me when you're talking about that. And it's so difficult to do that, especially against what can essentially become a 5-man back.
And the problem is, in order to play those 1-2s, you have your creative players and your players who have quality in their boots with their back to goal, even in Arsenal's half, because they have to be facing away from the goal to lay it off back to you. And they're laying it off back to you to play a speculative shot or a speculative pass outside the box against a team that has a bank of at least 4 players sitting in the box. So the strategy doesn't make a ton of sense to me, which means the only way that United can break down teams is by counterattacking them. And when teams don't come at you, which is what Arteta didn't commit everybody forward. El Neni and Partey did a good job of slowing us down and catching you on the counterattack when we tried to do it. But he didn't throw absolutely everybody forward, and that's how you play against this United team, I guess. And so, in the second half, you're right. The United came out more energetic. Bruno and Pogba and Fred, and even McTominay, their passing hadn't been really on in the first half. Nothing was really coming off. So they sharpened up the passing a little bit in the second half. Were able to kind of maintain possession in Arsenal's half and kind of build an attack instead of just trying to do everything too frantically. And I wrote down a note here that says United had more touches in Arsenal's half in the opening 8 minutes of the second half than in the first 45 minutes. And if that doesn't just kind of summarize what I've been saying about the first half, I don't know what does. But Paul, despite our United's bright start to the second half, Arsenal, of course, finding the back of the net eventually, with the penalty after Pogba fouled Hector Bellerin in the box. Would you like to take us through the sequence?
Sure. So, as you said, as we've already kind of talked about, and you mentioned at the very beginning, there was a little confusion as to who kind of covers who at that moment. And as we also mentioned, at that point, United had kind of shifted up the play. Pogba was playing a little bit more of the left winger, left mid role. So he's kind of tracking back that runner. And Bellerin gets a good play off from Willian, I believe it was, and opens him up into the box. And Pogba, who's on Bellerin at the time, comes in and tackles him, albeit he I wish we had a couple more camera angles. You mentioned that you really didn't like the camera angles that NBC provided us. And I'm actually with you on this. I would like to have a more of a front kind of look at it.
Yeah.
It really does look like Pogba steps on the actual foot of Bellerin, but either way, Bellerin makes a little bit of a show of it for sure.
I mean, that's what you're supposed to do. I mean, that's what you're taught to do, is if you feel contact in the because listen, regardless of whether you think it's enough for a penalty, which I will always be consistent with the argument that as much as I might call it soft, it's still a penalty, because if it's a foul anywhere on the pitch and it happens in the box, a foul in the box is a penalty. That is the law. So I don't know this. I don't understand the interpretation of, oh, it's not enough for a penalty. No, 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 no. If it is a foul anywhere on the pitch and it happens in the box, it's penalty. So I mean, that's. I mean, I have to support the decision as much as it's incredibly annoying.
No, for sure. Right, absolutely right decision. Pogba should know better. I want to get into Pogba's comments about it here in a second, just to ask you
Oh
what
yeah,
you think about
sure.
it. But you know, it just kind of exemplified exactly what we've just been just talking about this entire time, with Arsenal being so strong and exploitive on that side of things. Going out to the out and either cutting in with that winger or cutting outside with that winger, however which way you want to get to it, and then putting that pass in. This just happened to play in the fact that Pogba was, and I will get into it right now, he was out of breath or whatever. Professional footballer in the 70th minute, out of breath. I'll get your opinion on that in a second.
Man.
But he just makes a poor tackle, and he's not a defender. I get that, but at the same time,
You can't be doing that.
You can't be doing that. And I think it was Mark Goldbridge on his live stream was like, Aubameyang's gonna put it away. So you can't be giving up goals like that.
That's my thing. And like, I almost would have liked. I really would have liked to have kept a clean sheet. And even if we didn't score, I would have liked to have kept a clean sheet, because I know Aubameyang is on a bit of a Premier League scoring drought. And it's nice to keep the rival strikers on that kind of drought, because it mentally plays on you, right? So even if you can't get the points, at least don't let the striker that you don't want to find form score and get the confidence, because that can help you in other ways. Just purely from a rivalry perspective, Yeah. I'm not saying get injured or anything like that. I'm just saying, like, don't let them score. But I'm like, it's and then we give away a cheap goal like that, and it's frustrating for sure. Before we get into Pogba's comments, the last thing I wanted to call out from this game is how Gabriel managed to stay on the pitch at the end of the game, because he fouled. Was it Mason Greenwood?
I think it was Mason Greenwood. At the very end there?
At the very end, yeah.
Yeah, it was
Mason Greenwood. Yeah. Mason Greenwood dribbled. I think he tried to dribble past him from the right wing. It was kind of near the byline. And Gabriel just lunges in. Clear foul, clear yellow card tackle. Doesn't get a lick of the ball. Pretty reckless, if you ask me. It wouldn't have been a straight red, but it should have been definitely a second yellow card. And yet, doesn't receive one. Paul, for you, if you're the official, not an Arsenal fan, you pulling out that second yellow card?
Probably. I'll give you that.
Look, I mean, it's no excuse for why we lost, because we had plenty of opportunities to put you away, and we didn't. So I'm not going to blame the referee, but come on now. I mean, again, I'm putting all of this in the context of Martial was suspended for 3 games because he retaliated and Eric Lamela dived on the floor. So every talk of red card is kind of in the context of Martial got sent off for doing this, and Gabriel gets away scot-free.
So here's my only thought on it. All right. So yeah, I probably would have given that second yellow there. It was definitely, I thought it was bold of Mikel Arteta not to make any changes at the half, considering we had 2 center backs on yellow cards. That was, and just to have Gabriel like in the game that long, he was awesome though. He is a defender.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
I want to give shout outs to Holding and Tierney too, because we've talked a lot about your midfielders, but Holding and Tierney held their own.
Tierney's good. Rob Holding impresses every time he plays, just because he's just like a hard worker.
Yeah,
and I love to see him in the side, right? So my only thought there, Raul, is because I think what's going on in the back of Mike Dean's head is that if I give a red card here, people are gonna be like, "Oh, Mike Dean's just like trying to make himself big in the game, right?"
Mike Dean doesn't care. Mike Dean always gives red cards for that reason. He's like, "Oh, they haven't spoken about me enough this game. Might as well give a red card." It's ridiculous. The fact that you ended that game with 11 guys, ridiculous. Anyway,
he was very lean. It was probably a minute later. It was the very last play of the game. Gabriel had like Greenwood like went over him or something like that right before the foul, and it was actually a foul on somebody else. And he had another talk with him, but it was like another like, stop doing this, and like give the second
Just
yellow.
give the second yellow. Yeah,
You know, I'm so
crazy.
happy he didn't. Gabriel was awesome this entire game. His entire back line's been just phenomenal. But
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, man.
All right, you want to talk about Pogba's comments?
Yeah, so what do you kind of think of them? So, yeah, did you want me to like kind of go
Yeah,
I
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
have them
Introduce it. Introduce it.
I didn't have them pulled up, but I can really quick. Uh
Paul Pogba. Paul's you've always loved to take the mick out of Paul Pogba ever since he came back to Manchester United. That's the nicest 89 million pound header I've ever seen.
yeah.
Was a message I received from you one of the first few games that he played for us.
Dude, nothing will beat the banter I sent after I when with the Rio Ferdinand video. I love that video. But yeah, held his hands up. Frenchman, my mistake. I shouldn't do that. I have to do a better job in the box defensively. When you run forward and back, players run behind you. When you get in the box, you have to be not more clever. In French, the word is lucid. I don't know what the word in English. Lucid would be the word in
In
English, right?
English.
But I have to be fresher in the box on my feet. I'm trying to get to the. We didn't.
Yeah, the quote about him diving in. There was something about him being out of breath or being too tired or something like that.
Exactly. Yeah. So he was talking about. He mentioned how he was out of breath before that tackle, which kind of why pointing to why he wasn't so sharp in the box. I think is what he was trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So out of breath, is that something you're taking as an excuse there?
So I can understand that not every tackle is going to be perfect, right? I can get that. But to make a reckless tackle in that decision costs our team 3 points. So at the end of the day, I don't care how tired you are. I don't care if you've been running sprints up and down the pitch. You're a professional footballer. You've been given instructions. Your instructions are when on defense, you are to track your man, but you are not to foul him in the box. So at the end of the day, you didn't follow instructions. You didn't do your job as a professional footballer, and I am going to criticize you for it. So that's at the end of the day. Like I was listening to the United Stand today, and they were saying on the show, like, under Sir Alex, would he take I was out of breath as an excuse? No. Would I have taken that as an excuse 8 years ago? No. No player would have even said it because it's not an acceptable excuse. You can't be out. It is an acceptable excuse for committing a foul in the box and giving away a penalty is not I was out of breath. It's I was out of position. Sorry, I'll try and do better next time.
Yeah, I mean, it just speaks dedication for me. Like El Neni was running all up and down the field.
Well, that's what I'm saying. El Neni and Partey clearly didn't have a problem covering the radius that they did and holding down the midfield. So why the heck did you when you had 3 other guys doing it with you? Because Bellerin and Saka were spending most of their time bombing into our wings, so they weren't helping hold down the midfield. Meanwhile, Pogba has 3 guys alongside him and he's complaining? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and Fred and McTominay are fairly defensive-minded players in my mind. I know
Yeah.
Fred's not really, but
That's how Fred's deployed in these formations.
The way everyone's deployed in United for the past 3 years is a defensive role.
Seriously, it's crazy.
Yes, I mean,
Yeah,
what a game. I wish there was more action to it. It was a great game, and it was a nice, like, fun, tough kind of like environment to watch.
Yeah,
I mean, wish there was
think
more
it was
talking points.
It was tactically interesting. And we broke down a lot of the intricacy, but it was a fascinating chess match, and it was cool to see how each side tried to make adjustments to get at the other. But I mean, at the end of the day, like the really all that happened was the penalty. That was really it. So
Yeah.
unfortunately, not a ton to break down, but it's still a great game to cover. Glad we do. We will again. Yeah, I know
Yeah.
you're more glad than I am. Congratulations. And so here we are. Mikel Arteta besting Ollie for the third time. No, second time. Because he didn't beat. Was it Unai Emery the first time last season?
Yeah, it might have been. It might have still
When we
been.
did 0-0?
Yeah.
Or sorry, 1-1, sorry.
Yeah, so I don't even count that best. I don't count that besting at all.
Yeah,
A draw is a draw.
Yeah, a
So
draw is a draw. A draw is a
teams
draw.
played
But I
well.
think this is Mikel Arteta's second win over Solskjaer. So definitely has his number, at least as of now. So we'll see if that can change when they meet next in the season. If Ollie is still in the job, which has been called into doubt as of, because of recent performances, even though, of course, winning in the Champions League 2-1 against PSG, 5-0 against Leipzig, also coupled with some pretty crap performances in the Premier League, even though we beat Newcastle 4-1. The result kind of flattered us because we scored 3 goals in the last 10 minutes. So really that was a 1-1 for most of the game. A pretty crap performance against Chelsea. 0-0. This is one of the most boring games of football I've ever had the pleasure of watching. Again, United against Arsenal, not winning. Most recently yesterday, losing against Istanbul Başakşehir, so we can't even say we're playing well in the Champions League every time. And I just want to call out really quickly, I would just like to call out this goal that we conceded against Istanbul. The two goals that we conceded against Istanbul, which is why we lost. The first one was Demba Ba being left in a quite literal acre of space by himself on a corner where all of our defenders went up for the corner and nobody decided to man mark their striker who was standing basically on the edge of the touchline in his own half, so he couldn't be offside. Demba Ba streaking through and scoring one of the easiest goals I have ever seen conceded in professional football. I can't laugh at Steven Gerrard anymore, Paul. The Gerrard slip. I can't laugh at that anymore because Demba Ba's now streaked through on goal and scored against us too. Except for us, it didn't deny us the title. So, there's that. So,
there is that.
There is that.
Demba Ba.
Demba Ba. What a guy. I didn't even know he was still playing. And then he scores against us. And I was like, I guess he is still playing. And then there was another one where Bruno Fernandes plays one of the worst passes I've ever seen him play. It's like this sort of flighted pass, a little bit laterally to Juan Mata, who has to, and this is kind of on the edge of going into Istanbul's half. So Juan Mata has to backtrack into our half, right? Let's pretend my camera screen is the pitch, right? So Bruno Fernandes is here. He passes it to Juan Mata here. Juan Mata has to backtrack to get the ball. Meanwhile, the Istanbul winger tracks him down, steals the ball from him, runs past him, gets about here, and puts in a cross. Demba Ba arriving, dummies it, lets it go. And what happens is Juan Mata is coming back to cover this man. Axel Tuanzebe's in the box. He's going to cover this man. Harry Maguire is going to cover this same guy. So all three of them converge basically on this side of the box. And then they all miss the ball, right? So these guys are coming this way. The ball's going this way. And they're like, oh, crap. Because there's 2 Istanbul players streaking in like this. One of them is Edin Visca. And next thing you know, you end up in a situation where you have 2 Istanbul players here, 3 United defenders here, and the goal here. It's basically a free shot on goal. And he basically scored in an empty net because of it. And it's this, and the reason I call out this goal in particular is I saw virtually the same thing when I went to go watch us against Manchester City 2 years ago. In 2019 in the Manchester Derby in April. I noticed it was like when Raheem Sterling ran through and then passed it to Leroy Sané because of the way the defense was ball chasing and not, again, it's about tracking men, not about tracking the ball. The ball is important because you need to know who has it, but you shouldn't only be focused on the ball. You need to be focused on who's around you because you need to mark them, because if they're marked, they're much less likely to get a clean shot off on goal and score. So what happened was Raheem Sterling broke in on goal, played it out wide left to Leroy Sané, and Leroy Sané basically ran in being escorted by 3 Manchester United defenders alongside him because they were running in a straight line because they were ball chasing. And this is what happens. And so when I look at things like fullbacks being tucked too narrow and not being able to stop crosses, which happened again against Arsenal, it's something I didn't call out because I wanted to call it out now. Even when Luke Shaw and Aaron Wan-Bissaka were correctly assigned to their respective wide men, whether it was Saka, whether it was Aubameyang, whether it was Willian, whether it was Bellerin. You guys were able to put so many crosses into the box because we tuck our fullbacks too narrow. And it doesn't make any sense because you would think that you would want to block the cross or make contact on the cross before it leaves or right as it's leaving the attacker's feet so that you can put it off so that it's not as accurate as it otherwise would be. But no, instead we have this ridiculous thing where they tuck narrow and you just let them pump balls into the box over your head. So we have fullbacks improperly positioned. We have defensive players who are clearly being taught to ball watch and not mark their men, even in a counterattacking situation. We have defenders being told, "Oh, it's fine. You know, you don't need to mark a striker that's standing at the edge of his own half to run into your half and score off a corner in case you don't win the ball." And so these kinds of basic mistakes are costing us matches and points. And I have to sit there and look at the coaching staff. I'm not pointing at all at Solskjaer because I know he's not single-handedly responsible for coaching defending. But I have to sit there and look at the coaching staff and say, what the heck are you doing? Because you've been there for more than a year now, more than 2 years now. I want to know what the heck's going on. So it's people are calling for Ollie's head. And as much as I say he wasn't backed in the transfer market, Ed Woodward's not the one who's telling them to do all these things. That's not Ed Woodward's fault. So, I mean, at the end of the day, he didn't sign the players. That's true. That's a separate issue. And it is creating problems on the pitch, but that's a separate issue. There are issues for which Ollie and his coaching staff are culpable, and I want to call him out because I don't want to see him fail. And right now he's failing, and I don't want to see him lose his job.
Right, whatever numbers he wants to put on there, give him what he's done now since he's come in, and let him sign the contract and go. Ollie's let the wheel, man. He's doing it. He's doing his thing. Man United are back. That should have been the closing.
Man United are back, baby.
You just love it. You just love it.
I'm so sorry for all your pain.
Every time. Anyway, let's move on. Let's move on to the European tour. I know
that's the perfect segue. I thought.
Yeah, I know it is because that did happen in the Champions League against PSG. So I mean, there's that. Let's move on to the European tour, Paul. We've talked a lot about United Arsenal, but now it's time to go to the competition in which Arsenal do not currently participate. The Champions League, of course. Let's go through the latest round of group stage results before we go to predictions.
Sure. So as everyone knows, because we just talked about it a little bit, Istanbul beat Manchester United 2-1. Kind of a shocker right there.
Yeah.
Shakhtar Donetsk lost to Borussia Mönchengladbach 6-0. Crazy. Mönchengladbach, we'll get to them in a second, but I love watching that team play. Lokomotiv drew 1-1 with Atletico Madrid. RB Salzburg got destroyed by Bayern Munich 6-2. Real Madrid beat Inter Milan 3-2. Any thoughts there that you want to mention? Yeah, feel free to chime in if you have a comment here or there. I'm just going to read these off, okay? Manchester City dealt with Olympiacos 3-0. Porto 3-0 as well against Marseille. That's actually a pretty interesting
solid
game.
result.
I would expect a little bit more from Marseille there.
Yeah.
Atalanta got their butts handed to them by Liverpool 5-0. Ajax beat Midtjylland, however you pronounce
Midtjylland,
that.
yeah.
Midtjylland, right? 2-1. Istanbul beat Manchester United, and Zenit Lazio drew 1-1.
Had to get it in there twice.
Had to get it in there. Sorry, I'm just reading down that list. I want it beginning and in the middle. Maybe I'll even throw it in at the end. Barcelona dealt with Dynamo Kiev 2-1.
Mm-hmm.
And Juventus played Ferencvaros. And they, I'm trying to get all these names in of clubs I've never really heard of before.
I know.
Sometimes, right? Juventus beat them 4-1. I believe Ronaldo scored a brace in that. I believe he was back for this game.
Yeah, he did.
Club Brugge lost 3-0 to Dortmund. Haaland scoring twice. I almost wore my Dortmund jersey today. Actually, I had that pulled up and ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
But then I was like, oh wait, I can't. I gotta rep.
You gotta show off a little bit, if only
exactly.
This week.
Sevilla beat Krasnodar 3-2. Good showing by Krasnodar there, in my opinion, considering who Sevilla is. Chelsea beat Rennes 3-0 as well. And RB Leipzig pulling off probably the upset, I think, there against PSG 2-1.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
2-1. PSG always getting red cards. They really have like a
Slow their roll.
mentality issue. No, you guys just gotta like
Chill.
chill. Chill out.
Probably still seeing red after Marcus Rashford was a streak. Anyway, it's fine.
Exactly.
Cool.
Yeah, so now that we've gone through 3 match days, everyone's played everyone once. We're halfway through the group stages. Shall we? Because we haven't done it yet. Shall we give our predictions for who's coming out of these groups?
Yeah, let's do it. I like
more
having
educated.
this. I like having a little bit of context. Everybody put some feelers out there. Now we can kind of go through and see who's gonna square up against who. So I have, out of Group A, I have Bayern and Atletico advancing.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to catch any arguments there from me.
No, you don't think Lokomotiv Moscow or Salzburg are going to catch them?
No.
I don't either.
Definitely
I don't blame
not
you.
Salzburg.
Yeah, that Group A is a pretty easy one for me. Group B. I have Mönchengladbach, and dude, I just can't pick against Real Madrid.
I actually have the exact same. I'm thinking Inter goes probably down to the Europa League.
Yeah, I mean, Inter only on 2 points with a -1 goal differential. And even though Real Madrid is level with Shakhtar on 4 points, Shakhtar is a -5 goal differential. So that's going to be pretty hard to overturn if that stays level. Then Real Madrid will go through on goal difference, I'm pretty sure. So
I agree. And like you said, hard to bet against Real Madrid. But when we get to our round of 16, I don't know where I'm going to
I don't know what's going to happen.
You know?
Yeah.
Group C.
I have Manchester City and Paul, that team on which thou shouldeth never sleepeth.
Yep.
However you say that.
Porto, Rahul.
Don't sleep on Porto. Olympiacos with a -4 goal differential, and Marseille with a Marseille is definitely out with the -7, but Olympiacos with the -4, even if they do manage to catch up with Porto, that goal difference is going to hurt.
Yeah, I'm thinking Porto is going to make it out with Man City here.
Yeah.
No questions about it for me.
Going to Group D, I have Liverpool, as much as it pains me to say it. And I actually have Atalanta coming out of this group because here's my round. Or would you like to explain why you picked them? Why don't you go? I've been giving a lot of rationales here. Why don't you?
We're on point here.
I'm telling you, man. I wrote everything down. I dissected it. I went through it in my head, and I said, this is what makes the most sense to me.
Here, this might be even crazier to you. My rationale has nothing to do with my trust in Atalanta, and it has absolutely more to do with my distrust in Ajax.
Well, it appears that we arrived at the same results for an entirely different reason. But my reasoning stems from the fact that the only reason that Atalanta's goal difference is less than Ajax's goal difference is because Liverpool hit them for how much?
5-0. Yeah.
5. So they previously were +4. So I mean, at the end of the day, I'm not gonna penalize you for that. I mean, Liverpool are a very good team, so I mean, fine. Like, again, we're not saying who's going to outright win the group. It's just, are they going to advance? And I think they have a better chance of advancing than Ajax do, because I think they're a better team.
I agree. I like it.
Okay, Group E. I have Chelsea and Sevilla coming out of this one, and yeah, I mean, I'd be surprised if there was a lot of disagreement from you on this one. Chelsea and Sevilla, of course, both on 7 points.
Renner Krasnodar probably have to roll the table on the rest of this on the rest of these matches to even get back into the conversation. They need to win at least 2 of the 3, so I'm thinking probably not.
Yeah, it's not gonna, especially with that goal difference. Yeah, it's not gonna happen. Out of the next group, Group F, I have Dortmund and Lazio coming out of there. 6 points for Dortmund, 5 points for Lazio. Club Brugge close behind on 4 points, but a -2 goal differential. Little bit of a gap to overturn there, even if they are able to level up on points. And I just think that Dortmund and Lazio are the best teams in that group.
Yeah, I think Lazio is the best team in that group.
Me too.
I'm gonna come out and say it right now.
No, I agree. I agree with you. I agree.
I know that's because it's Dortmund, but Lazio is a powerhouse of a Serie A
And
team
Serie A,
recently.
exactly.
Um,
You want to go with Group G?
Group G, I've got Barcelona, Juventus coming out of there as well. It's again, obviously, I mean, it's Barcelona, Juventus, sure, but it's just the goal, not the goal differential, but the points that they would have to make up to get out of this group is just
Beating teams the
impossible.
caliber of Barcelona and Juventus to make up those points. Not gonna happen for Kiev and Ferencvarosi. So.
But I got Barcelona going top and Juventus coming in second there.
Yeah,
so
me
I think
too.
It's gonna stay. Yep. So
Me too. And finally, Group H, the big kahuna. What you got, Paul? What you got?
Oh, I don't think PSG make it out of the group stage.
Dude, me neither. I had them initially, and then I saw that they lost yesterday, and I was like, no, they're not making it out. That'll be a however many billion pounds that they have spent on transfers and God knows what, and they won't even have made it out of the group. That's how ridiculous that would be if they didn't. But I still don't think they're making it out.
I think it's going to be. I think this is the group that's going to be super close. Not Istanbul. I don't think they'll win another game, but only because like all the other teams have to win the other games, right?
Yeah, I think United win the group and Leipzig come in second purely because United are going to be helped by that goal difference, putting 5 past Leipzig in that one game. So I think that United win the group.
I think United don't beat PSG again. I think United beat Leipzig again for sure.
And I think we beat Istanbul the second time.
Exactly. I don't see it planning out. I just think it's too tough to go to PSG twice and take 2 wins away.
Yeah, that's fair.
Go to PSG twice, but right?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's
crazy.
It's gonna be
Inter wins Europa League. No, I'm just joking. Arsenal wins Europa League. Everyone.
Inter might end up there with you, but yeah, we'll see if you can mop the floor with good old Antonio Conte and his team of ex-Premier League players.
Unfortunately, I think I need Spurs to win the Europa League in order to make some of my predictions come true.
Ooh. So very, very interesting indeed. All right,
Europa League group stages. Let's go.
Yeah, no, we're not even gonna go there. We're good.
All right.
All right, Paul. I have a 20 questions for you before we go.
Shall we?
Let's do it. So, viewers, I'm so used to calling them listeners. Viewers, in case you have never been with us for a round of 20 questions, it's a very fun game that we play at the end of the show. Just to kind of close things off, have a little fun. Basically what we do is, if you've never played 20 questions, Paul will ask me 20 questions and try and correctly identify the player or manager, whoever, in soccer, of whom I'm thinking, in 20 questions or less, yes or no questions only, 15 seconds per question, or he receives a 1-question penalty. Paul, are you ready?
Yes, let's do it. Is this a current player?
No.
Is this a current manager?
Yes.
Does this manager manage in the Premier League?
No.
Does this manager actually did this manager play at a high level?
Yeah.
Okay, doesn't play in the Premier League. All right. Does this manager manage in the Bundesliga?
Nope.
Does this manager manage in La Liga?
Nope.
I guess I gotta ask. Does this manager manage in Serie A?
No.
Does this manager manage in Europe?
No.
Ha 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 ha! Everybody,
catch on that one.
God, I wasted 8 questions like that, Rahul.
You did.
Does this manager manage in South America?
Yes.
Did this manager play for Roma?
No. That's 10.
God. Goodness, I don't know enough South American managers here. Does this manager manage in Brazil?
No.
It's not Flamengo, most likely. Does this manager manage in Argentina?
Yes.
Oh gosh, I have no idea who Boca or River Plate's managers are.
Told you I was gonna make it a little harder on you, dude.
Did this manager previously manage in the MLS ever?
No. That's 13. I should put up 1, so for 13, you know?
Does this manager recently go to the hospital?
Yes, he did.
Is it Diego Maradona?
It is Diego Armando Maradona asking the right questions, Paul. I don't mean to laugh at him going to the hospital. I, of course, wish him all the best and a speedy recovery from the operation that he had. Of course, one of the greatest players to ever grace a football pitch, Diego Armando Maradona. Surprised you didn't ask about his former playing career, because once you found out he played for Napoli and Barcelona, you would have gotten it quite quickly, I think.
See, your answer to did he play like top tier football was like not reassuring enough for me to go like,
well,
oh,
see,
he was like a
the thing is,
Barcelona
I was
player.
reading it on Wikipedia, and it started out with Argentinos Juniors, Boca Juniors, and then it ends with Newell's Old Boys and Boca Juniors. At which point I'm like, okay, so like if we're talking Europe, no. So I'm like, then I thought, you know, and then I see, you know, what's in the middle, and then I'm like, of course he did. Yes, of course he did. So, yeah.
I understand, but yeah, Diego Maradona, love his little manager's throne.
Yeah, it's hilarious. And the wall of guys he uses to like not let people see what he's inhaling through his nostrils. But you know, I mean, this is allegedly. We don't know. We don't know what is going on there. But you know, he's a funny guy. He's a funny guy. Love that guy. Anyway, Paul, would you like to give a shout out to our social media before we close for today?
Yeah, absolutely. Follow us at Cheeky Chip Chat on Facebook, or just Cheeky Chip Chat on Facebook, but on Instagram and Twitter, that's at Cheeky Chip Chat. Follow me at Cheeky Paul on Twitter. You'll get yourself a little extra cheekiness there. Follow Rahul, the Rahuligan. Any numbers, Rahul? Oh, it's right down there. It was
down there.
There it is.
It's down there. There you go.
Right there.
That's all. That's all our social media. Yeah, follow me at the Rahuligan on Twitter. You tell them to go to our website, cheekychipchat.com?
Oh, yeah. Go to our website, cheekychipchat.com. Get our name out there. Send it to your friends, your loved ones, however you want to do it. Just be like, hey, listen to a great podcast. Those two dudes on there are cheeky as anything, and they love to talk soccer. So, yeah, follow us at Cheeky Chip Chat on most social media.
Well done,
Not
Paul.
MySpace. Don't have a MySpace.
Well done. Well done. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Paul, thank you for coming on as always. I would like to give a shout out to Purple Planet Music for providing the intro music for this week. You can check them out at purple-planet.com. And as always, we thank you for joining us on the cheekiest football podcast this side of the Atlantic. And until next time, we hope that you chips will keep it cheeky until we chat once again. Take care.